everybody. Today is Thursday, October 15th, and we are Never Free to Play, a podcast where we talk about all the video games we wish we were playing. I'm one of your hosts, Karsh Palashti, joined by my co-host, Sean Mybers. If you decide you like us and you want to help us save Jason from Tartarus, he's stuck. Hades has got him. Zagreus is too busy and too sexy to help, so we have to do it. You can find us at neverfreetoplay.com, patreon.com/neverfreetoplay, or on all the other social media where we are Never Free to Play. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, feedback, please send it to us at neverfreetoplay@gmail.com. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm not a robot anymore.
No, you are not. You are a flesh and blood human being. We can see you. There's proof. You're not some figment of my imagination that I created in conjunction with Jason's imagination. You're a real boy.
Yes. A 31-year-old real boy.
31. Yeah, you are 31.
Yeah.
Robert's going to be 32 soon.
He is, yeah. He's ancient. Poor man.
He is getting real old. In fact, soon as in like Saturday.
Yeah.
By the time this goes live. Happy birthday, Robert. Birthday shout-outs, birthday shout-outs. These are your birthday shout-outs. So yeah, Jason's not here, as you can obviously tell. Again, he's stuck in Tartarus, which is the first level of Hades. He's got to fight his way through there, through Asphodel, through the Fields of Elysium, and then a couple other places. I don't want to spoil the entire game for anybody who either hasn't played or hasn't been to Hades themselves personally. But he told me he was on the last boss, and so he should be escaping any day now.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. So yeah. But Sean's here, and he's so graciously once again stepped in to give us some talk that Jason can't really bring. You know, Jason's really kind of one note. He likes to talk about hardware and farts, and that's about all he can bring to the podcast. So,
yeah, I bring a much larger depth of swords and nerd.
Yeah. Housekeeping, aside from the fact that Jason isn't here. Go ahead and like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter. I'll talk to you. We'll shout you back. We're desperate, and we're lonely, and we need you. So please, please, do those things. Just like good Sean Mybers has.
I think I followed you on Twitter, didn't I? I literally dusted off my Twitter account.
For the very purpose, the sole purpose of making that number go up by 1.
It's you and the Tampa Bay Rays. That's the only things that I follow, because I made that Twitter account to go to like some special Rays Twitter follower only event when I was like 23.
That's so funny. And now we know that was 8 years ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I can do that, man.
Last time I was on Twitter, you only had 160 characters. Or 120,
exactly. It's been a long
time. Whatever it was.
I don't even know what it is now.
It's double whatever it was. That's all I know.
Is it double?
I think so.
So Jason had a correction for me. He said, stop moving your mic stand. But that's wrong. I'm going to keep moving my mic stand. Like so. Ooh, it's a haunted mic stand for Spooktober. All right. But I won't move it anymore. I promise. All right, so this will be a break, so I'm going to write that down here. About 14 minutes before we get into the news. News. Let's get into some news. So there was some big Sony news this week. Specifically, they went ahead and cracked that baby open, the PS5 that is, and they showed us all the fun, good stuff inside. Man, I got to tell you, it was pretty surprising to see what was in there. First, like just right out the bat, Kratos, his Leviathan axe, was just sitting right inside.
Well,
and you know, like
it's the only way to keep keep proper cooling.
Exactly. You know, like everyone was like, "Oh, my PS4 always runs so hot and so loud," and they made this sucker big, and they're like, "Oh, they did that for the cooling." You're like, "Well, that doesn't make any sense." And now we know why, because his axe is in there. And if you have never played God of War, the 2018 reboot, the axe is an ice weapon, and so it's going to make sure that your PS5 is running ice cold.
I think the important question also is if I throw the PS5 at my enemies, can it come flying back to me?
No, because you're not cool like Kratos.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, if he wants your PS5, he's gonna stick his hand out, and you're never gonna see it again. It's gonna be gone, and it's gonna be coming to his hand instead. So, in addition to heat, another common complaint for No, you couldn't. No. Another common complaint we get often about the PS4 is that it's really loud, and it is. The fan just keeps going to keep it cool all the time, but it's like a jet engine. So they went ahead and they chopped poor Sly Cooper's feet, and they stuck them in there. So sneaky, quiet. It's going to be great.
I don't think I've actually played a Sly Cooper game, so I'm going to assume that you're correct that Sly Cooper is quiet.
He is. It's a stealth game. It's like a cartoon mascot-based thing. He's a raccoon, he's a burglar or something. I've never played him either, but I do know that one cannot steal things very well if they are not quiet.
That's fair.
They would have chopped off Sam Fisher's head if they could find the man, but he's been MIA for quite a while now. So.
Did you actually see that they made it wasn't quite Sam Fisher, like it uses a slightly different name for Rainbow Six, Rainbow Siege a while back. But the worst part of that is they didn't bring Jeremy Irons in to voice Sam Fisher.
Yeah, I've heard that they've done everything except give people what they want when it comes to the Splinter Cell property. Like they refuse to make a new game.
Had like Sam Fisher cameos in almost every other. Like I would not be surprised if I sit down to play like Assassin's Creed and Sam Fisher ends up killing like the King of England.
Yeah, or is the King of England?
Or that's fine. I mean, at that point, I'm going to admit defeat, but
I am now an Englishman.
Yeah,
always have been.
Battle lost. Touche.
So that'll cover the quiet or the sound and the heat. Additionally, the panels can be removed. So those white, curved pieces that make it all awkward shaped, and you kind of have to stand it up. They can just take them off and throw them in the trash. Save yourself some space. You don't need those anymore. Get yourself a nice black box with a little cool metal thing on the side. I thought that was really considerate of them to let you take that off.
I really can't wait to just go with shoving it all back inside a box of cardboard and calling it a day. It's really the style that I go for in my house right now as I continue to attempt to unpack everything.
Yeah, but for real, what do you think this means for potential either officially sponsored or third party like customized things, or you can even paint it yourself, I guess, but that's usually kind of tricky. You think they're going to like allow for that? I
would not be shocked if that ends up being something they do. I think what you'll actually end up seeing that'll be kind of cool to look at going forward is as fans come out and they will do custom paint jobs on it. Like I can definitely see like some really impressive custom paint jobs being done on those panels because they're not that hard to remove.
Yeah, it was the easiest thing to do. There were two things you could do. You could take off the side panels, and you could take off the base unit that allows it to stand vertically. So if you wanted to lay it down horizontally, they do not recommend that you do that, but they say that for like optimal heating or optimal cooling, etc., it really should probably stand up, as well as all the dust. You don't want to get the dust in there. Everything was designed for that sucker to be a tower and not some sort of sideways thing, which is going to make a lot of people upset, and they're going to turn it sideways anyway. So I know I don't have any space for it. Could you put a PS5 in your current entertainment situation standing up right now?
Standing up, I would have to. So like my entertainment station, it's kind of like 3 sections. In fact, there's 2 doors, so I'm going to have one section visible at a time. So like, which means like right now, if guests were to come over, I just have the Nintendo one open because I'm a Nintendo household and I want people to know that. But it has like 2 shelves, and if I took out all the shelves in one of the thirds, I could probably stand it up straight. And it's going to be what I'm going to have to do with that and the Series X if I decide to go down that route instead of the Series S. But the problem is like right now it's nice because I can put like the console on the top, and then I'll put like the controllers on like because I can the shelves are variable, and I'll put the my physical games because I'm still that person. And I'm going to totally lose that because everything will just be scattered on one surface and it'll be chaos.
So yeah, basically the answer is no. And much like everybody, we're going to have to scramble to figure out how to fit this thing in our house. But we're going to do it anyway because we want it.
Yeah, in like 2 years. I'm still not great.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. Well, I mean, I am, but I'm not getting it at launch. But I'm certainly the second there's a hard date for God of War, I'll be there. And I'll be putting the money down for it. So I'm basically just waiting for that.
I'll probably get to this God of War about the same time I got to the previous God of War, which was about a year late. So
no, not this time. This time you do it on time so we can talk about it.
Fine.
I have a spoiler.
I'll do it just for your podcast.
Exactly. Spoiler cast. Go.
Kratos throws an axe at Thor? Calling it now?
I hope so. I mean, yes, that's definitely going to happen, but we'll see how well it goes for him. Moving on inside further, we delve to the motherboard, which also doubles as a summoning circle with the metal blood of Klangrax, Andromeda's cosmic overlord, ready to go for the ritual. So you don't even have to supply your own blood. You don't have to configure the circle at all. It's just right there, ready to go. This like nice little cute display of like the ram, just kind of like in a circle around the center where the metal blood is, and boom, demons right there in your home.
I mean, the nice thing here, though, is that the cooling fins actually act as a binding circle, so it shouldn't be able to escape your motherboard.
Because, that always goes so well.
Yeah, perfectly. Who's ever had a summon backfire on them?
Nobody. I mean, I just do it all the time.
That's how I get all the chores done around the house.
Not those kind of demons, different kinds. And then finally, Knack from the game Knack was in there. He wasn't supposed to be, but they couldn't figure out how to get rid of him. And it was just easier to leave him in there instead of, evicting him. So if you don't like Knack, that's too bad because he's here to stay.
I think if this conversation has taught me anything, is that there's a lot of Sony IPs that I have no idea what they are.
Knack was a release title or launch title for the PS4. And it's just like, it's a really sad attempt at a mascot platformer. He's like a big clunky dude who's also really small. Like he's like made of pieces of things. It's not good. I've never played it, but I've seen it, and he like just him as a character is incredibly underwhelming. And they made a second one for some unknown reason, and it did really mediocre. And that's why I kind of put that in there, because it's like they can't get rid of him. They refuse to say goodbye to Knack. Of all things, Knack should be gone.
No more Knack. He has no Knack for this.
No more Knack. So that's what's inside your Sony PS5. You can't open it or you'll break the warranty, so you'll have to take our word for it. They probably took down the video that we watched, so if you find a different video out there that doesn't have all quite the same things, don't believe what your eyes and your ears are telling you. It's fine. Believe us. Believe what we say.
Yeah, because we got that inside track.
Exactly. In addition to showing us what it looks like on the inside, they finally today revealed the PS5 UI. Did you happen to catch this video?
I didn't catch the video. I went and watched I found some screenshots of the UI right before we filmed this.
What did you think?
I've never been impressed with Sony's UI. I pretty much from the 360 onwards, I have preferred the Xbox UI. But on the same note, like I don't like Android or Apple's UI. I prefer the Windows Phone, but obviously I lost that battle. So my opinion is clearly of poor taste.
Yes, it's worth absolutely nothing to consumer markets. It's not ugly. It's fine. To me, I looked at it and went, "This is fine." Like, it doesn't have any character. It'll be there. Like, all right, good. Exactly. Good. I can play my games. There was a lot of stuff happening. Like while you're playing a game, you can access a lot of things, like tips and quick little like micro walkthroughs or something, which I'm sure will be completely dependent on the developer. And they were in the video I watched, for the most part, the only game they showed two games. It was the Sackboy game and the Demolition Derby one. I can't remember. Destruction All Stars. That's what it is. Yeah. And it did show you coming in and out of both those games like just like lightning. They showed another video of what it looks like when you leave a hideout in Spider-Man on a PS4 versus Spider-Man Morales on a PS5. And it's like night and day. There's a full-on loading screen on the PS4, and it was particularly long. I don't ever remember him being that long, but it was quite long. And then he comes out and he goes into the city, whereas Miles is in the hideout. He literally jumps through a hole into the city. There is absolutely no break whatsoever. It is an instantaneous transition from being inside a building to outside in the full city of New York. And that was impressive. I was very excited. That's
pretty cool.
That has nothing to do with the UI, but it does have to do with the, the SDD, which excuse me, the SD, solid state drive, not the solid drive. But yeah, I don't think we talked about that enough last week when we answered your question about like the differences or what we expect aside from graphics. We totally skipped over how amazing like that read speed's going to be for what you can do in the design space of a game.
Oh yeah. Well, there was something a while back. I think they were showing it with the Series X, and it was Outer Worlds. And like, to load into the game from the main menu was like almost a minute on an Xbox One S, I want to say. And then they were showing it on the Xbox Series S, and it was like 12 seconds or something. I think it was like a reduction of like 70%.
Yeah, I think I remember that too.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna to me that just especially coming from where I've played so much of like the Fallout and the Skyrims, and those both had problems on the 360 where like the longer you played the game, the longer the loading screens became, to the point where you'd be like, all right, so let me hit continue, and I'm going to go off and make a sandwich and pour myself a drink and go to the bathroom, and then I'll come back and sit here for a minute, and then I'll play my game. Like that's just from a convenience standpoint. I think that's what I'm excited the most about, and this is probably also because of how little time I had to play now, is that whole ability to like jump in and out and then not lose so much time to loading. It just means what little time I have to play games, I'll be able to like better maximize.
Yep, faux show. Can't wait. But yeah, I mentioned it a moment ago, going back to the UI, there's a lot going on sometimes. Other times it's actually quite clean and it doesn't get in your way, and it looks like, so currently the PS4, your little like media bar thing goes straight through the middle. There's like another menu at the top, and you can't really see the cool theme that you have, if you have one, that is. Yeah. It's really easy to get one. They come with lots of games, or you can buy them, etc. Whereas this has the stuff at the top and at the bottom in a slightly smaller way, and it really allows for whatever background you've actually set to come forth, completely, so you can actually see it, which is cool. But at the same time, like I said, depending on what you're doing at that moment, it can be kind of a nightmare how much stuff was on the screen. So I don't know. We'll see how like pushy they get with like advertisements and sales, and because I already don't like booting up my PS4 and seeing like, hey, play Madden. I'm like, absolutely not. Get this off of my, like I don't like that. Don't do that. But they will.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we were to look at the current three consoles, I mean, I do. I really do like the Xbox One layout, just because of like the groups and the ease with which to me go track my friends. Which the biggest reason I ever bought the Xbox was because that's where most of my friends ended up. When I was, especially like right when I joined the Navy. But also the Nintendo one's great just because it's just my games, and if I want to hit the button to look at the news, I can. But otherwise, it's literally just like, here's the games I've played most recently. Click one, and we can go play it.
I love the only thing I would ask for the Nintendo UI is a folder. That's it. That's all I want.
A folder would be nice.
Themes.
Yeah.
Themes would be cool too. I want, put Mario in the background and stuff.
To me, it's I never spend enough time in that area anyways to worry about what's on the background. I mean, it's just a hallway that I walk through to get to, from not playing video games to playing video game.
So you're just going to leave all your house white and plain. You're going to put pictures of me and Jason up because it's just utilitarian. I
mean, I haven't gotten around to hanging any of my photos in my actual house yet. So I'm going to go with yes.
And that's what I'm talking about. Your actual house.
Yeah, no, I mean, my hallway will probably, yes. All right, fine. Yes, I will decorate. You're right.
Yay!
I can see to you, good sir.
Mission accomplished. Podcast over. All right. Last bit of Sony news. In a bizarre move that makes no sense and potentially future-proofing something, I'm not really sure, they changed the way they do trophy levels, which is just really not that important. But previously it was levels 1 through 100. You start at 1, max is 100. Now it's 1 through 999, with bronze, silver, gold, and platinum badges going along with it, and there's various tiers within those bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, except for platinum, which is the final level when you're 999. Rumor has it there is a secret level 1000, but it remains to be seen what depraved acts one will need to commit in order to obtain this unholy status. How do you feel about trophy hunting and achievement hunting, Sean?
I'm sure there are still people that go out there and play games just to play the achievements or the trophies, but I can't think of that. Like so like on the Xbox, like your username, at least back in the 360, I don't know if it actively shows it or as blatantly shows it nowadays. It had like the number for the amount of achievement points you had gotten, and
gamer score.
Yeah, it was your gamer score. And I guess once upon a time people cared about that, but I can't imagine. Like, I don't care anymore. Like, I mean, the one nice thing I'll give achievements and trophies is they can be a way to point you to go do things that you wouldn't have done in the game otherwise. But the score means nothing to me. Like, I could care less.
Do you hear that, Sony? Do you hear that, Xbox? Get rid of them. We hate them. Do you have a platinum or a 1000? Did you ever get one? I
have a 1000 in Halo 3 ODST, which was murderous to get. And I have a 1000 in Titanfall 2 because that is a fantastic game and everyone should play it.
I was expecting the Titanfall 2 one.
I had a 1000 in Minecraft. Well, I guess I have a 1000 in Minecraft, but they've added so many achievements to that game that it's now worth like 2000, and I haven't gone back and gotten all those.
Gotcha. I myself have a platinum, a single one and only platinum in Kingdom Hearts 3, which was not too bad. I only had to play like another 15 hours on top of what I did, I think, maybe 20, but it was mostly fun, except for like a couple mini games that even those weren't that bad. But I do want to get the Final Fantasy IX one day. I started it, but there were a few missables, and I did miss them despite having a guide and trying to be super careful not to miss them. So it was a little disheartening, and I'll pick it up someday. But aside from that, yeah, trophies in general have kind of just remained dumb.
That's on like an updated release of Final Fantasy IX?
Just the like the port to the modern consoles with some of the like quality of life change. Like it lets you play at 4 times speed.
Yeah.
And
I had this max damage. I was like, man, I'm really certain they didn't have trophies back on the PS1. Like, not that I played a ton of PS1, but I did at least beat Final Fantasy 7 on it. I don't remember any unlockables like that.
Nope, nothing like that.
Halo ODST, because that's where they introduced the firefight mode, which is just like the endless waves. And in order to 1,000 that on every level, and there was like 8 of them, I want to say, you had to get like some ridiculous amount. It basically required you to like get through full 2 rounds, and each round was like 5 waves or something like that. And it took like 2.5 hours to do each. I basically, it was like over the course of 2 weeks. My younger brother, 2 of my friends, and I, we were just like, we're gonna do this. And like you'd go in and you'd lose, but you'd like strategize the map. It was fun, but it was murderous to get. I do not recommend it.
Yep, it's a hard balance to strike between like mind-numbingly dull and difficult. And so sometimes it's like, I just wish they didn't exist, because like no one would do this on their own. Yeah. And that's, I think sometimes like that's the litmus test for trophies. Like with somebody, even kind of a crazy person, would they do this on their own? And if the answer is still no, don't make a trophy about it.
Well, so like the one games where I do really like them are maybe like the open world games, because it'll like, it's like, wait, I have this achievement, these couple achievement lists. What are these? And they can point you towards like, oh, there's this quest that I didn't even know about in this game. That So in that regard, I kind of like it because it can help you find more, or make you realize there's more of the game than you thought. But especially on like, I mean, like I got Titanfall 2 because I think it required me to like beat the game twice and spend a couple extra hours picking up like collectibles on maps. But like it's not like there's anything in Titanfall 2 that I really miss by not going after the achievements. I found I probably got 3/4 of the achievements by beating the campaign.
Yeah, that's the way I like it.
Yeah.
So that's Sony news, and then Nintendo showed off some new Hyrule Warriors gameplay and some Pikmin 3 gameplay in a Nintendo Treehouse, which is just kind of their like gameplay video series. They call them, I don't know why I call them Treehouses. It's just kind of cute and fun, I guess. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah, I watched both of those.
Mm-hmm. I skipped the Pikmin part, but I did watch the Hyrule Warriors, and I was already on board, but I really liked what I saw. I just think the game looks good. Like I'm looking at it, I'm like, my eyes enjoy what I'm seeing. It's as simple as that.
That even just goes to the general graphics of Breath of the Wild. Although it does look polished up even from Breath of the Wild a little bit, which makes sense because Breath of the Wild was also designed to run on the Wii U. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean that is I'll probably get that when it comes out, which is pretty rare for me nowadays because I am very excited about that. Pikmin 3, I didn't play the original. Probably not. I mean, I don't think I have more than 20 minutes in a Pikmin game. So,
I'm the same way, but I always wished I had. I don't know why I don't know why I never got it, but I just didn't. And I'm somewhat intrigued, but because of what I've been playing recently, with Hyrule Warriors, only like 2 weeks out from Pikmin 3, which comes out, I think, the 31st of this month. I'll probably skip it. I did download the demo, which is available now. It will save your... Yeah, there's a demo. It's pretty meaty, supposedly. Like, I don't know, like a few hours worth of content to just kind of like max it out, your experience. But the save data will transfer to the main game. So that's always nice when you got a demo that does that. But if you want to dip your toes into Pikmin 3, you can do that with the demo available on the Nintendo eShop. Then we have Cyberpunk 2077 has gone gold. And in case you don't know what that means, it just means that the game has been certified by the various certification bodies, the PlayStation and Xbox, etc., all the places that they're going to put their game. And that means they can start creating the basically version 1.0 that they'll ship on discs. Of course, there will be a day one patch. There's always a day one patch. There'll be a day two patch and a 3 patch. I'm sure for a game quite this large and ambitious, but it's always a nice milestone. It's the point of no return for these kinds of things, and the game will definitely hit its release date now.
I will fill in the obligatory Jason. I am super excited. This will be my possible Hades topper for Game of the Year.
No. No. Jason's a poser. He's don't know anything about Cyberpunk. He played The Witcher for like 2 days and he loved it, apparently.
To be fair, that's a long time for Jason.
So long. It's twice as long as he usually plays games.
Yeah, see?
I'm just being a contrarian. You know me. I don't like to give too much slack to anybody, especially this stupid company and their completely meteoric rise to success and fame after, let's face it, it's just one game. Like, nobody played The Witcher 1 and 2. I played The Witcher 1. It's awesome. I didn't play Witcher 2. Nobody else did.
I played
Witcher 3.
I played a couple hours of Witcher 2 and decided I didn't like the combat.
Yeah. And the combat didn't get better. It's why I can't, I downloaded it again because I'm going to try to play The Witcher 3, that is. I'm going to try to play it on my lunch breaks, just kind of chip away at it. This will be like the 6th time I've downloaded it. I'm not going to restart this time. I promise I'm not going to restart. But the combat still kind of sucks. It's still the same goofy, dancey, swordy combat from the first one, only slightly updated for controller support. It's just not good. That's why I'm going to bump that difficulty down.
I've never cared for the game. I know a lot of people, and obviously it gets compared to Skyrim, and it gets, the story's better. And a big reason for that is it has better developed characters. And part of that's because it has an actual protagonist as opposed to a blank canvas protagonist.
Right.
But that falls apart for me when the protagonist I have to play as just is not the type of person I want to play as. I don't like Geralt in those games. And from any of the footage I've seen of those games, I'm like, no. And then, he's worse in the books, in my opinion. So, and I've read the first 3 or 4 of those. And it's like, this is not a character I want to play as.
Yeah, I watched the series. It kind of got me wanting to read the books, but I'm really bad about reading anything.
I would. Henry Cavill does a much better job of humanizing and making Geralt a relatable character than the book does. He is not relatable at all in the book. Yeah. He's
I do like
him. A womanizer character. It's not
good. Sure. That part's definitely there in spades in the original, and I'm pretty sure it's in spades in the third one. You might have to go a little bit more out of your way to it might not be front and center, because part of 3 is the fact that he is chasing the quote unquote love of his life. So he has to tone it back a little bit, but that doesn't stop the player from being able to choose, bedding every single female creature. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Bear, woman, dryad. It's all fair game. Sexy bears. Anyway, before we get too far down that rabbit hole, last little bit. This one came out today. Rockstar Games of Rockstar Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2 fame, that Rockstar acquired a studio called Ruffian Games. If you're scratching your head wondering, who's that? Why, they're the people who developed Crackdown 2 and 3, and everybody loves those games, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah!
That's why they got to make Crackdown, 4.
It's on its way any day now. Xbox exclusive. So yeah, that was odd. Probably just like, if I had to guess, I didn't read too much up on it. Probably just looking for, a cheap or reasonably priced developer who might have been looking for an easy out without going under.
The thing I thought about this though was, because Crackdown, I think you can do like campaign co-op, but Crackdown doesn't have like the open world thing like GTA and Red Dead Redemption do, right?
I'm pretty sure at least 3, if not 2. Has like a sandboxy type of thing, yeah.
Does it? I was wondering if maybe they were bringing Crackdown or bringing on Ruffian to help with actually like the single player mode, because I mean, let's face it. Last I checked, GTA Online was still rolling in or pulling in fistfuls of cash, and I have to believe that. Rockstar has still got most of their focus on that versus any additional story content. Since we never got a meaningful story DLC for GTA 5 like we did for the previous ones. And let's face it, they don't have to. They're making a ton of money, but I wonder if maybe they're bringing in Ruffian to help fill out that role, since that's not really their focus anymore.
I think. Yeah, it's pretty much exactly what you said, but flip it. The existing team will work on any kind of story DLC or even a GTA 6, while Ruffian will be the maintenance team that continues to make sure that GTA Online is the cash cow that it is today.
Yeah, that's a good point. That actually makes more sense. I wondered too, because had you seen some of the trouble Red Dead Redemption Online or 2 Online has been having?
I've never heard anything except trouble when it comes to that particular mode.
The last news, and this is a few weeks ago now, but they rolled out a patch, and it bugged out the entire game to like NPCs went missing, like all that was left on it. Like you'd load in the games, and it would just be like you and like a handful of other players and your horses, and it was so bad that Rockstar had to roll back everyone's version of the game and basically just like canceled the patch because it broke the game so bad.
That's pretty unprecedented. Like that's a rare thing to happen in any situation. Like I work for a software company and we've rolled back twice, maybe ever. And and that was like brief. And it was really just this is easier to do and figure out what happened than, but that's crazy. And like, I don't know what happened with that game's multiplayer. Like they clearly thought they could wrangle it together. I'm sure that the main team was probably like, yeah, that'll be someone else's problem. We're going to make this game how we want, whether or not that this engine and this architecture will service itself into a multiplayer. That's their problem. And apparently it's a huge problem because it's just not working.
Yeah, it's I read about, I'm with you. I mean, pretty much everything I've read about Red Dead Redemption 2 or Red Dead 2 Online or however it's said has not been positive. But that with them actually having to roll back away from the previous patch is just crazy to me.
All right, that does it for the news. All right, now let's go ahead and get into what we wish we were playing, because we here at Never Free to Play are never free to play with jobs and wives and kids who we love and we're thankful for, but they get in the way, And so there's one game in particular we've both been daydreaming about, and that's Baldur's Gate 3. So Sean, you are our Baldur's Gate 3 or our Baldur's Gate resident. Our Baldur's Gate expert. So tell me a little bit about your history with the series and what you want to, how you feel about 3 and what you've seen so far.
So for starters, I have played Dungeons and Dragons going back to what was called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which is 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons. And to explain the banality of 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons, you had this thing called Fact 0, which was 2-hit armor class 0. It's your base attack bonus. But it was totally asinine and backwards because it was a value that would go down over time instead of like just a regular plus value. And so with that's AD&D is the rule set that Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2 ran off of. And those were like, I was intimately familiar with how to min-max those games because I played 2nd edition D&D. And like I started playing those games, I want to say in middle school, only because they came out like 2000. I think is when Baldur's Gate 2 came out. And
that sounds right.
Like Baldur's Gate, the first Baldur's Gate, I've only beaten once. Baldur's Gate 2, I've beaten the entire game twice, but I have probably played through 70% of that game like a half dozen times. Because like this also lined up during that time period where Microsoft had gone from, I think, Windows 98 in 2000 to, do you remember Microsoft ME? Like before XP?
Only vaguely.
So like ME was this buggy mess. And the only reason this mattered to me at the time was because I kept getting, so in Baldur's Gate 2, you escape, you got captured between the two games and you escape. And then you play through and you're trying to like get your soul back you're trying to get your friend back and eventually you try and get your soul back. And so there comes a point where you're 70% of the way through the storyline, but also I would do all the side quests I could do before that point. So every time I bury like 60 hours into this game, and then my dad, because the ME operating system was so terrible, would reformat the entire computer. And so I kept getting to the Underdark part of the game and then having to start over. And then I would get back to the Underdark part of the game, and then my dad would reformat the hard drive. So I have played this game extensively. And they are to this day probably my favorite CRPGs. Like they just, I love every aspect of them. I love the fact of how true to the D&D rules they are. That this isn't like most of the D&D rules, but we've adjusted them for this is D&D, and and they're just and they're the height of BioWare games. All the stuff that BioWare became known for. The romances and the inter-party banter, like all that stuff originates from them. And Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2. Also Minsk. Just Minsk. Minsk and Boo.
Minsk is awesome. Minsk and Boo. You'll have to play the games. We can't get into that right now, but we'll just give you a little teaser. It's a man and a hamster.
Yeah. A miniature giant space hamster that tells him what to do.
So 2 and its expansion came out in the early 2000s. And then we heard absolutely nothing. Well, that's not true. We had a few games. Icewind Dale was a thing.
Icewind Dale 1, because that was still 2nd edition, and then Icewind Dale 2, which was the jump to 3rd edition, and then you had the Neverwinter Night games, which weren't like. Eventually, their expansions made them pretty impressive story-based games, but early on they were like the get a friend, he builds the dungeon, you play through the dungeons your friend made type of games.
Interesting. Okay, so almost like an attempt to like digitize D&D.
Yeah, but the only thing was, I don't think that your friend who built the dungeon would actively play through the dungeon. It was kind of like
right. He
built it and then he uploaded it, and you could go play it.
Right. So a few games came out. They updated to 3. I don't think anything ever used 4th edition rules in a video game.
We like to pretend that 4th edition never existed.
We do. I never touched it, but it's easy enough to just ignore. So Baldur's Gate 3, or rather 5th edition, the most recent and current edition of D&D came out, I don't know, 2013, 2011, something like that?
Yeah, it sounds, I want to say 13.
Yeah. And so here we are in 2020. Larian Studios has made Baldur's Gate 3. It's currently in early access. You can purchase it on Steam or Epic or on PC for $60. So you are paying full price for a very, very incomplete game, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But, it's D&D. From what I hear, it's, like you just mentioned, how true the first 2 were to the 2nd edition rule set. It wasn't just like inspired by, kind of like Knights of the Old Republic is inspired by the D20 system.
Yeah.
But Baldur's Gate 3 is pretty much 5th edition in video game format. Yeah. So tell me about Baldur's Gate 3, or rather, not that you've played it, but
I'm excited about every part of it. Obviously, it's a story franchise. I'm interested to see, because the trailers and all that. You're fighting mind flayers, right? The mind flayer, some mind flayer ship has come and it's capturing people and it's causing chaos. But the Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, you were supposed to be the same character. You were one of the ball spawn. One of the children of the dead god of murder. Who foresaw his doom and therefore went down to Earth and made like Zeus. And I'm curious because one of the standard things that happens with every edition of D&D is they jump forward the timeline and the Forgotten Realms setting, which is one become the main D&D setting, and two is what I'm pretty sure they're setting, because I'm pretty sure those are the Dragon Riders of city name that escapes me right now, but so theoretically, from third edition. Second edition, third edition was only jumping I think like a couple decades, but fourth edition was like 100 years, and I think fifth edition is like another few decades. So, I mean, obviously, if they go with your character was an elf, he could be the original ball spawn, but I'm interested to see how it's going to tie into any of the lore from the previous games, because also Baldur's Gate 2's expansion, Throne of Ball, really put a bow tie on the storyline of that series. So that is something I'm curious about, if it's really going to be Baldur's Gate or more a forgotten, just a game set in the Forgotten Realms campaign setting. Which I mean, regardless, still super excited. Yeah, it's the Forgotten Realms, which is a fantastic setting. It's D&D by a company that, from their history with the Divinity Sins is top notch at making these type of games. Probably the best people out there making anything like this anymore. As someone who usually dungeon masters, this will be a nice escape to actually get to play the player character and just sit there and bury myself and build a ranger, because I'm predictable and always play a ranger.
Tut. Next thing you know, it's going to be human fighter.
Did you see the news that they released about they took the average of all of what people have been making their character, and it was like the most generic looking person possible. It was a white dude, white human dude with like just a typical like video game face. He looks like the default vault dweller from Fallout 4. Yeah, and they even mentioned that he looked like what Peter Parker looked like in the PS4 version. I felt like of Spider-Man. Yeah, pretty much just white bread, plain, generic, and they're like, Larian Studios, the developers are like, come on guys, we gave you horns and tails and like orc faces. This is pathetic. You can do better than this. I thought that was really funny. Now, I mean, have you played Baldur's Gate, any of the previous ones? I played just the teeny tiniest bit of the second one, without the expansion. I got out of the tutorial area. I escaped the dungeon. Yeah, I escaped the dungeon, and I make it to the town, on the surface where everybody's still living a regular life. CRPGs at that time were not a thing. Like the closest thing I ever played to it would have been Dragon Age, the first one, which was kind of that's basically what it was. That's the kind of game that was Bethesda making their bread and butter, but not having the D&D license. Or sorry, not Bethesda, BioWare making a D&D game, but not having the D&D license anymore. Yeah, pretty much. Lots of problems with Dragon Age, but I've come to appreciate this style of game more so over the years, especially very recently. I've talked about the Larian Studios' most recent game, Divinity Original Sin 2, which they came out with, I think, 3 years ago now. I think it was 2017 or 2018, to critical and commercial success across the board. It's no brainer that Wizards of the Coast went ahead and gave them the license to make Baldur's Gate 3. I'm sure they're going to do a great job. So far, buzz is pretty positive. Yeah. You can only play like a few hours of Act 1, or you can only play Act 1, which is probably, if I had to assume, a pretty small act. Although, they're comparing it to the beginning area of Divinity Original Sin 2, and it's like that plus 50% more. I'm like, well, that was a pretty meaty section. So it's hard to say, but anyway, you can only get to you can only get through Act 1 and level 4. Like, you can't go any higher in level 4, which is only like a fifth of the way to level 20, which is usually the end point in any given D&D adventure. You don't usually level your character past that. So for people who aren't familiar, this is going to be numbers are going to be small, like they're much smaller than you're used to in a lot of RPGs. The pace is going to be slower, and it's just going to be very like true to the tabletop. You're going to be
getting +1 bonuses for a long time until you start finding some weapons here and there, I'm sure.
I think that was, going back, that was probably one reason why Baldur's Gate 2, I think, did better than 1, because Baldur's Gate 2, I think, started you off at level 7, which did feel more like you had, at that point, if you're a spellcaster, you got more than like 3 spells to cast. And you got a smattering of your class's abilities, and they're actually, to the point where, because I remember playing 1, because of the rules of range fighting in second edition D&D, bows are super dominant early on. They just that's like the technique in that game was to get like Minsk and have him just like tank, and then you just shot with bows with everyone else, because you got 2 attacks from the get-go with bows, whereas swords did not get 2 attacks till much later. But also, I remember having like melee fights, and literally just because Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 it operated entirely with the D&D rules in the background with the roll of the dice, but it did it in like a semi-real-time kind of way. So you could sit there and just let it play out. And like guys would swing and all that, but really it was only calculating your attacks based upon the D&D stats. And then basically kind of played animations to fill in between what would have been the die rolls. But I remember sitting there for like a solid 30 seconds once and just watching my characters just swing at like the enemy and my like one surviving character just swing at each other and being like somebody. And a guy would get hit and like half his health would go away because you have like 5 hit points. And he was like, all right, come on. Somebody either win this or somebody die. Like let's go here, guys.
I remember
that's how D&D works.
Yeah, those games are brutal. The first 2, they're just and CRPGs in general, because that's just how they're designed. I've had a very similar experience with Divinity at the very beginning. I was like, this is just, it's a little silly how like easy it is to die if you do the wrong thing because of how open it is. And I knocked the difficulty down. I started getting a little stronger, but I do hope Baldur's Gate 3 makes a slightly better effort to like, all right, here are some kid gloves for at least just a little bit. And then once you know all the rules and you know exactly what you're doing, go ahead. And that's what I'm also going to love about this once I eventually play it, is that I already know the rules. I already know how to play D&D. You play 1, you've played most of them, but I have also played 5th edition and I've got the books. So it's not the same with Divinity, which is a completely different way of playing an RPG, even though on the surface they can seem so similar. Are you going to get this in early access, or are you going to wait till it's completely finished?
I'll wait until it's completely finished, because that is one thing about these CRPGs is they do tend to release pretty buggy. And a lot of times, the worst of those bugs ends up being in the like, you simply can't complete this quest. And I just, it's the same way you see with like the Skyrim and Fallouts and all that. I mean, there's a dedicated community out there, even back in the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 era, who released like the unofficial patch in addition to the patch that BioWare put out in order to actually make the gameplay somewhat stable. And I don't think it'll be a crashy mess, but because of the nature of these games and the amount of ways you can use it, tend to go about doing things, I'm going to give it a little bit of time before I pick it up.
Yeah, I might give in, like, because I have it, like, each day's gone by and I've thought about it. It's one of those things just kind of like at the back of my mind. And if I can put it off long enough, something else will come across my attention and I'll forget about it. But if I do get it, I'll probably do something different, like something I never do. And then once the game's like completely released, then I'll do my boring fighter mode, because I love fighters. They're the easiest while still being difficult. And you'll have a party, so you can always just kind of put whoever you want in there. But I'll play it differently. That's for sure.
But that's, I assume they will. I mean, that's to me that's been the high point of these series is that like you have so many options and you get to pick. It allows you to almost build your party, and then 2 is the way that those characters end up interacting with each other. And that's that to me that the gameplay for Baldur's Gate was always solid, but what made it above and beyond was really it's the quality of its characters. Whether it's Minsk and Boo, or it's the various romance options, or Irenicus being like the first villain I remember in a video game being like, I hate your guts and I can't wait to get to the end of this game and kill you.
Yeah, I hope it's got a good one. Good villains are the best.
Yeah, nothing beats a good villain.
Speaking of villains and how awesome they can be, it sounds like you wish you were playing one of the best games with one of the best villains this year.
So
Tell me about Hades.
I told myself I was going to download it and play it this week, and I just this has not been a good week for video game free time. I finally managed to scrounge together more than like 20 or 30 minutes of uninterrupted video game time today, just for this podcast. I played my little brother. But yes, I mean, after the last few weeks of listening to you and then Jason gush over this game, I can't wait to play it. I played Bastion. I downloaded Bastion like right before I got underway for a patrol, and then across that like 2.5 month patrol, I think I beat Bastion like twice. Like I really enjoyed that. And from everything I hear, I mean, Hades is above and beyond Bastion. So I will find time here this week, so help me, to play Hades.
Yep, do it. You won't regret it.
And then beat it faster than Jason.
No, you won't. The Bastion comparison is apt. Like, in a lot of ways, it's like a prototype for the kind of game that Hades is. Not so much the roguelike part, but just the style of combat, the isometric kind of view, the way that the way you unlock upgrades and your loadouts, etc. So, Bastion is great. Hades is just 1,000% better. Yeah,
see. And then I'm just a sucker for the isometric view, because Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, isometric. Just it's isometric. As an engineer, it's my favorite view.
And they switch it up. Sometimes it's from the left angle, sometimes it's from the right angle.
Oh, snap.
So, pretty crazy.
My world is blown.
But in addition to Baldur's Gate, Foregone came out, I believe it was actually yesterday. And Foregone was a game that jumped on my and Jason's radar sometime in the middle of the summer when they were doing the indie summer games kind of like highlights and stuff. And there was another game, it was Foregone and something else. I don't remember what it was, but it's basically, it looks a lot like literally looks, as far as the aesthetic is very similar to Dead Cells. It's not exactly like it, but it's very similar to Dead Cells.
Okay.
But it's procedurally generated content, but it has a much larger focus on equipable gear and getting more gear, getting stronger gear, and making your way further through the thing. I don't know how roguelike it is. I can't remember at this point. I just remember really liking the look of it. And it is on Switch, PC, and then maybe PS4 as well. I can't remember exactly, but I might have to skip it for now. I will go ahead and hop on the eShop later like I do every Thursday night, and I'll go ahead and put it on my wish list. But, you know, Hades, I don't want to do Foregone a disservice by playing it so close to a game so similar to it that I know will probably just be way better than it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I look forward to playing that someday, whenever that might be.
I mean, that's the tough part about this time of year too. Is like we're hitting that point where I mean, game releases are ramping up, and it's like this is the time of year where, not that my game backlog ever seems to get shorter, but this is certainly the time where it does nothing but just exponentially grow.
Yeah, and it's a mental thing. Like, you start to think about all the games that you're probably not even going to play. Like, I'm not going to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but with people talking about it and me not hating it at its core, you know, I start to trick myself into thinking, oh, maybe I could play that. I'm like, no, you're not going to play that. You're going to get bored 5 hours in, because that's what you do every time.
Oh, it's just that, like, it's the difference between, I want to play that. Like, I want to have the time to go and spend on Valhalla and Hades and Baldur's Gate. I want this time. I will never have this time again, probably ever in my life, unless my military retirement is enough to make it that after like 40 something, I don't have to work a day again in my life. But there's never enough time to play video games anymore.
There is not. We'll make that happen though, Sean. We're going to get you retired at 40 so you can play video games or go to space. Your choice.
Ooh, that's tough. I don't know what I'd pick there. Space is pretty cool.
All right, so while you're thinking about space, Sean, I'll just go ahead and let listeners know that this was what we wish we were playing. And if you like this, go ahead and tell us in the comments and leave us some feedback about what you wish you were playing. Or, hey, if you've played Baldur's Gate 3, tell me how much you like it. Tell me how much you hate it. Stop me from wasting my money if that's what it is. All right, we talked about what we wish we were playing. Now let's talk about what you've been playing. Sean, what have you been playing?
Not a lot, as I mentioned. So obviously I've been playing the greatest game of all time, fitness boxing, because gotta stay in shape, and it's Florida and it's hot, so I haven't quite acclimated to running outside again yet. So there's that. I managed to, so like moving from Alaska to down to Florida, and I didn't have my consoles. I passed my time building like a mod list and tweaking it, and then asking for insight in order to have like this perfect mod list to play my Skyrim Special Edition on my Xbox One. And I downloaded all of those, and I stress tested it, and it ran perfectly. And I now have this perfectly modded, gorgeous, all the additional features I want to play Skyrim. And I played it for like 30 minutes, and I'm like, this is nice. I'm going to go play Hades. And then I just never got to Hades. So, you know, I've now made Skyrim perfect, and I'll probably never go. But yeah, that might be it. I may like never touch Skyrim ever again. Because
that's how I mod things too.
Modding's a weird thing where you spend all this time, you're like, yeah, I did it. And like the journey of modding was like, it was more enjoyable than playing the game.
It was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah. And then I finally got back to, and we had played this probably months ago now. And then I played quite a bit of it single player after the one time we played Astroneer, you, Jason, Robert, and I played it for about 3 hours right before we recorded this podcast with my younger brother. And it was cool because they added a big automation update. And then there'd been like a smaller update even after that. That added more to the automation stuff. And so like I loaded in and was like, huh, what is this? What's this? What is a medium resource canister? And like built one. It's like, this will store 32 of one resource. And I was like, what? And then I just shoved all of my resin in it. And it was like, great. And I was like, this is fantastic. And then I sent my younger brother to a different planet and was like, okay, I have to go record a podcast now. Bye, you're stranded. So yeah, he's... Yeah,
you can go to other planets?
You can, yeah, 100%. I sent him. There's like 5 other planets. So I stuck him in a shuttle, and I was like, all right, go to this planet and go find me some tungsten. And because what I found out, cause I played quite a bit of this game after the one time we played it, because it's an astronaut and an engineer. It's literally half of what I already am and everything that I wish I would become. So is every planet has aluminum, and then like the compound, the resin, the organic, and then every planet has 2 other minerals. So like the starting planet, it's called Silva. It's the Earth-like one we start on has malachite, which turns into copper, and it has whatever turns into zinc. And so like I sent my younger brother to a planet that had tungsten and it also had copper, but I needed the tungsten because like, as you get further in that game, you're like, okay, to build the next thing, I need like this. And I was like, okay, so getting this shuttle that I built out of aluminum and shoved a rocket on the bottom of it, go get me tungsten so I can build you a bigger shuttle so I can send you to like a different planet with more resources to get me other things. So eventually I can build a nuclear reactor, because that's clearly the end game. So,
what does space travel between the planets? Is it just a cutscene after you've officially
No, so it's actually pretty cool. So you'll launch, and then you're orbiting the planet you're on, and so it actually gives you like a bunch of like, it's got little white bubbles that are where you can like click in to land on that planet. So it's actually a pretty convenient way to travel around the planet. But then you can hit again, and it'll pull out to the solar system, and so the planets are all actively orbiting. And so if you'd actually looked at the Skyward plane, like there's a moon that orbits, and then you can see like the other planets even further out. And so it's pretty cool, because then you'll click on the planet, and your like the 2 planets are still moving, and your rocket will transition and then go into orbit of the other planet. So it does it all in like real time, and it's not super impressive, and you got no control of it, but like visually it's fun to watch. And then you'll pick a place to land on that planet, and it goes and it drops down. I learned out the hard way. So remember when we played this and you loaded in and threw my oxygenator down a crater?
I didn't do that. That's lies. Those lies and slander. That never happened.
So what I found out, so like the oxygenator, your main base needs them to provide oxygen. It turns out your spaceship needs one of those in order for you to have oxygen when you go to another planet. So found this out when I was playing single player. So when I sent Kyle, I did send him with an oxygenator. So he should be fine for like the next week until I can play again. It'll be okay.
The way you talk about it makes it sound like you literally sent Kyle into space.
If Jason is in Tartarus, Kyle can be on Fire Planet in game that I can't remember what it's called right now.
Ooh, Fire Planet.
Yeah,
I like the sound
it's
of that.
The Mars equivalent. It's
that.
Also, it has sulfur in the atmosphere, and eventually you can build dynamite.
Nice. We definitely need to play that again.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So that's it for me. What have you been playing, Karch?
I finally, and I'm very sad that Jason isn't here to hear me talk about it for the first time, but I finally bought Bug Fables. Been talking about buying Bug Fables. I bought Bug Fables.
Is it everything you wanted?
Yes and no. So I was going to get Paper Mario. Not get, but I was going to download Paper Mario because a friend of Jason's has that, and we have we're sharing purchases and all that, but I didn't have his password handy and I didn't want to go get it. So $20 seemed more reasonable than getting out of bed.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, pound for pound, inch for inch, like I'm like already like 10 or 11 hours in, I think.
Oh, nice.
Or maybe 9. I don't remember. It's not a small number. But pound for pound, inch for inch, this is Paper Mario, but you're bugs instead. Instead of the Mushroom Kingdom and Toads and Mario and Toadstool and Bowser, you're just insects.
Is this Paper Mario on the 64, or is this like modern Paper Mario?
It is akin to the Paper Mario on the 64 and the GameCube, which was simply just a sequel to it. So if you've ever played Paper Mario, or it's older, more the origination of the idea of a turn-based Mario, it's a turn-based game. It's an RPG. Where you've got party members, and in Paper Mario, it's they're the various like enemy types that you'd fight either in that game or in previous games. So you could recruit a Goomba, and you could recruit a Koopa and a Paracoopa, etc. And the next one you could recruit a Yoshi. You can only ever have one partner at a time, and they were mostly like supplementary. Like they had their own stats and moves and stuff, but Mario was still like the main player. In this game, you play 3. You get all 3 party members early on, and it never gets bigger or smaller. Oh, nice. And they all have far more, they have far more importance to any given battle. They have their very specific roles. You have Kabu, who's a beetle, like a Hercules beetle. He's got that really sharp horn in the middle. And he's like lawful good. He's just he wants to help everybody. He's not dumb, but he's not like clever or witty. He's very bookish almost. It's just very straightforward. And he like kind of pierces enemy defenses and flips certain enemies so you can, attack their soft underbelly. Then you've got V or Vi. She's a bee. She's got a boomerang. She's really good at getting your aerial enemies down so that your other people can hit them. And then you have Leaf, who is a moth who has ice magic, and that has its own abilities, both in and outside of combat. So you have obviously your various moves that affect the enemies in various ways, and then you have ways to manipulate the world and solve your puzzles. And it's fun. It's cute.
So I mean, with the characters, is it closer to Super Mario RPG than it is even Paper Mario?
No, it's still definitely more Paper Mario.
Okay.
Yeah, no, so it's definitely not Super Mario RPG. This game was made to satisfy and scratch an itch that was not being scratched by the existing way that Paper Mario has been handled. Sure. So the way that Origami King and Color Splash is just not the same game anymore. It's not the same series, and it hasn't been for a long time. And these people are like, well, we'll just make it. Like, just every little bit. It's too many things to detail, and most of them are visual or sound-wise. But it is the spiritual successor to those 2 games, the first 2 Paper Marios, that is. Lots of writing, like everybody's got something to say, and then if you hit the minus button on the Switch anyway, the characters will say something else about either the area they're in or the person you're standing next to, and there's just constant dialogue, but in a good way. It never gets too tiring, and of course, if you don't want to hear every last thing, you just don't talk to every last person. But there's lots of little side quests. It's chock full of them. Find this goodie here, defeat these enemies here. It has a fast travel system, so it makes completing those quests fairly reasonable. It's a cute little setting. Like you're in the ant monarchy. Like there's a queen ant, obviously, and she's tasked you with finding the everlasting sapling. That's the subtitle. It's Bug Fables: the everlasting sapling, which I think is supposed to make you live forever. It's actually not quite clear. You're pretty sure, the characters are pretty sure that the queen has less than pure intentions compared to her mother, who everybody loved. You're in some sort of post-apocalyptic world because you're clearly in a world where humans exist, because like the ant homes and stuff, like obviously there's like a mound, but there's also little homes that are built out of like cardboard boxes or like discarded fast food drink cups and things like that. You see like large items that are just regular household items in a human world. But there's of course no evidence that humans still exist, but they sometimes refer to the quote unquote giants. And so that's what that is. And then in a funny twist, like an ironic twist, because every RPG has an ancient civilization that came before you who had technology that far surpasses what you have today, except you have bits and pieces of it. And they have that, except guess who it is? It's the roaches. The roaches are dead. The thing that supposedly will survive anything. Yeah, exactly. And at some point there was this...
If mankind was going to take one bug out with it, we were going to take the roaches with us, just to spite them for thinking they had the right to live.
And so they're constantly referencing the roaches and their advancements and trying to not reinvent, but re-engineer them. And so it's funny, and it hasn't been like explicit yet. Like if like there's going to be like some very on the nose explanation about the roaches, we'll see. But there's also other little things. You've got the ant monarchy, obviously, and then there's the bee kingdom, again, with a queen bee. And everybody's related because everybody comes from like the one queen. And so everybody's a sister and a brother, except it's a very, like, everyone still has a personality. And it's very modern, and so it's like an interesting take on that. Something went down with the ladybugs.
Dysfunctional family.
Exactly. And like, and that it plays out. Like, one of the side stories is V, the bee character in your party. Like, bees are assigned, a task from birth, and they're not supposed to deviate from that. She's like, I want to be an explorer, because that's what you are. You're explorers and you're hunting treasure. And V's like, I want to be an explorer. And they're like, no, don't. You're a bee. Bees don't do that. Do this other thing. She's like, I hate you. Screw you. I'm going to go be an explorer. So she's fighting the hive mind. Yeah.
I'll say this game sounds like fantastic. Like, it just sounds like one. I mean, if it is indeed invoking the old Paper Mario, it's just a well-made game, but it just sounds enjoyable, and just every moment just sounds fun and well done, and I really now want to play it.
I strongly recommend it. It's not gripping me, and part of that is because it's hard to pull yourself away from Hades. A couple other games I wanted to play, and I've just been really busy. But also, I don't know, there's just it is still missing something. You know, like as good as this is, and as good a copy as this is of Paper Mario, it's still not. It's the same thing with like Final Fantasy Tactics. Like, I could play a phenomenal game that's literally designed, and I did, like last year or the year before, a game that's literally designed to just be a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy Tactics, except it's not. And so it isn't as good. It's not good when I don't have the classic classes and the chocobos and the, kind of corny but like familiar Final Fantasy type of plot. And it's the same thing with this game and Paper Mario. So I like it, but I don't love it. But we'll see. It might grow on me even more. I don't know.
Oh, keep me posted, because I am interested. I think I could use something that probably could be played, and I mean, I guess Hades is going to be that way, that I can play in tiny chunks, because that's all I got right now.
Oh yeah, no, Hades can be played in tiny chunks, and this game can too. It does have like your traditional saves, there's crystals, and you have to like save spots. You can't just save wherever. There's no auto save or anything. Of course, Hades has its problems there too, but you won't run into those until you're like really far in the game. Everything will be very quick, and you're in. Yeah,
I remember you saying that last week, that obviously because you have to do the full run every time. So as you get better and better, and you're making longer runs, well, it takes longer to play the game now.
Yep. So that was Bug Fables. I've been playing something else, sort of. It's more vicariously something I'm not supposed to play. So I found a loophole, and that game is Pokemon Shield. Jason doesn't like it when I play Pokemon because I told him I don't like it. And so he's trying to be a good friend and preventing me from playing it. But I got my daughter to play it. I didn't get her to play it. She started playing it. I don't remember why. Oh, I remember. I downloaded it as a joke and sent it to a picture of it to him. And I said, hey, guess what I'm downloading? He's like, no, I hate you. And then I was like, it's kidding. I'm just kidding. I downloaded it for the humor. And then she saw it. She, being Juliet, saw it on my... like on the switch bar and the media bar when I had like had it up on the TV, she's like, I want to play Pokemon. I'm like, all right, sure. And she's kind of she played a little bit of Let's Go Pikachu. And that was like 2 years ago now. And so she can read a lot better and her attention span's a lot, more solid at this point. Yeah. And so she's kind of finally ready for like a regular Pokemon game. And I gotta say, it's been fun to watch and it's been very interesting to appreciate all the stuff I hate about it because of how much easier it makes it for someone like her who's only 7 and never really played too many video games beyond like Animal Crossing. Like what I hate about being so easy and so hand-holding, so corny and so blah, 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 she's eating it up and she's able to just keep progressing without hitting all these stumbling blocks that she might have hit if she was playing, Pokemon Red or even something from like the middle of the pack like Pokemon Diamond or Black and White, which are very much harder by comparison, even if they are easy compared to games at large. So yeah, that was fun. But then she guilted Rachel, my wife, into playing. And Rachel is actually a lot further than Juliet, who always makes Rachel play now. And Rachel's got a type A personality. And even though she might not finish this game, although she might, she's already got 3 badges under her belt.
Oh, wow.
She's got to catch everything she sees. She's like, I want to catch this. And she's every time something levels up and like there's a new move, she's like, okay, so it's learning this. Should I swap it out for this? I'm like, baby, it doesn't matter. You're steamrolling everything. It doesn't matter. And in this game specifically, if you'll remember in Pokemon, you used to have to force them to forget something.
Yeah.
And then you couldn't get it back. You couldn't get that move back unless you found it in a different item that taught it to them. Well, that's not a problem anymore. You can go to this guy, and as long as they learned it as they leveled up at some point, he'll swap it out for any other move. You still only get 4. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I love that feature.
I'll say that would have relieved a lot of the existential childhood dread I had every time my Pokemon leveled up. And I was like, oh, but what if I need tackle down the road?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I took Growl and immediately regretted taking Growl because...
Well, in the old ones, you didn't know what the moves did either. And in the new ones, they have tooltips that explain what the move does.
Oh, so that's nice. Yeah.
It's very nice. So yeah, it's been awesome just to like get to quote unquote play with them. I'm usually just sitting on the couch explaining what they need. It's like, when do I get a bike? Soon. Just keep. I want my bike now. I'm like, just keep playing the game. That's the other thing. Like they both want everything, but then they don't do the things that they need to get the stuff. I'm like, it's just like Rachel's running around the same patch of grass for like 30 minutes. Like, oh, it's the same thing. I'm like, just go to the next area. There's more Pokemon over there.
Yeah. Move on. Come on. So I have 2 important questions on this.
Yes.
So what starter did each of them pick?
So I originally picked Sobble, which was the water one. And so Juliet picked the monkey, which was the grass type. It's called Grookey.
Okay.
And then Rachel liked Sobble a lot, so she picked Sobble too. And they both got really upset when they evolved. Because
and get less cute.
As is tradition, for the most part, Pokemon get less cute as they grow into their next evolutions. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens with these starters. They're just not as cute. And they're like, oh, because like they both gave them nicknames. I never give them nicknames. Juliet was calling hers Buddy and Rachel named hers Bubbers. She's like, I miss Bubbers. When do I get Bubbers back? I'm like, well, you can do this and this and this. And then like I start rattling off a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense to them about like breeding Pokemon and getting your starters back. And they just kind of gloss over.
And then, I mean, that's adorable. And I'm also happy to hear that it sounds like Juliet could beat Rachel now because she would have the type advantage. That's important for a child to have over their parents.
I didn't even realize that. If only they could play. It's like when we had Animal Crossing, we're like, we need 2 Switches so we can play this at the same time. And obviously that fervor has died down. But now maybe I'll get that second Switch and a copy of Sword so we can do some trading.
Well, see, well, then you just need to record a video of the family fight.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get it. Well, it's hard to record Switch stuff without capture cards, but we'll figure it out.
Fair. And then the second and the more important question is,
yes,
have you really not played the game?
No, that's not true. I played it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I never technically beat it. Like I beat the champion, I became the champion, but there was like this tiny bit of post game where you go fight a couple of like Dynamax Pokemon at some of the gyms that you'd been to so that you can do this weird story bit with these goofballs who are trying to, I don't even remember. It was
truly
stupid.
Become the best that ever was.
Exactly. And so it involves the legendary Pokemon, the mascot who's on the covers of Sword and Shield. They're those wolf Pokemon who have the sword and shield respectively. And then just get the opportunity to catch them. Once you do, you get this, the end thing shows up on the screen, and now the game is quote unquote over if you're not going to go catch them all or do the competitive thing and fight other people. So that's all I did, I promise. That's all I did. I might have caught 6 Pokemon too. I might try to fill out the decks. It's fine. I have a lot of them. I have 300, and there are, without including the expansion ones, I think there's only 400.
Oh wow!
And I have nearly, aside from a few that I would have to trade because they just do not exist in this game in any shape or form, I'm pretty close to getting them all, which has never happened before. So I might try it out. And playing in this the game's over, and so I'm just doing the things that Pokemon is best at, which is fights and capturing Pokemon. It's this isn't that bad. This is fun. Capturing a Pokemon is what's so good, and it's fun. I like it. I like it a lot.
So, because you said you nearly caught them all, does Pokemon not still do the thing where you can only catch some Pokemon and Sword and only some Pokemon and Shield?
No, it does. It's just there's out of the 400, there's literally only 5 or 6 that you can't catch.
Okay, so you meant of you've caught nearly all the ones that you'd be capable of catching in Shield.
Right. Obviously, you can't get more than one starter, so I'd have to have someone trade that to me. There are some Pokemon that only evolve via trading, which is only kind of true in this one because they're in the wild area, which is their open world spot. Certain Pokemon, like Gengar, for instance, was one of those Pokemon who only evolved during trading. Well, he will very rarely spawn in certain conditions on the world map, and you can just run into him and catch him. You still can't evolve that Haunter into a Gengar unless you trade, but you can get super lucky and find a Gengar. Yeah. So that's how I'll do it until such time I find anybody I know in the real world who has a copy of Pokemon Sword.
I haven't played Pokemon since Silver, I think. I need to go watch a video because I'm very curious to see what the overworld now looks like as opposed to what it did once upon a time. Obviously on the Game Boy Color.
It's pretty, but it's so simple. It's still just a straight path to the left or the right or up and down.
There's
little substance.
It's 3D nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Is it still just you're walking into tall grass and the screen flashes and the battle music plays and you battle, or do you actually run in? You actually can chase down Pokemon now?
It's both. There are Pokemon that walk around that you can see, but there are also invisible Pokemon that just show up in a rustle and you run into the rustle, the grass that's rustling, and then you get a mystery Pokemon, basically.
Okay.
That's how you find some of the rarer ones. Obviously, the ones you can see, but...
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a combo, and like I said, that part of the game's awesome. I loved every minute of going to a new place, finding new Pokemon, seeing because I went pretty media blackout as far as the new stuff when it came out, so everything was a surprise, and that's always fun. Even the old ones that you remember from the previous games, you're like, oh, I didn't know you were going to be here. Hi.
I think it's Kotaku that does about weekly. They'll do it's the old what's that Pokemon. And I'll be honest at this point, because I don't recognize any of them because none of them are really I only know the original 151 and then a handful from Silver. And so I every time they post that article and sometimes I'll read it, I'm like, is this an actual Pokemon or is this just somebody doing a joke article? Because literally this Pokemon's a lamp. I don't know anymore because this many Pokemon in, I have no doubt that there's a lamp Pokemon, that he exists. There's probably a brave little toaster Pokemon for all I know at this point, but I just have no idea anymore.
I wish. There is a lamp Pokemon. He's actually one of my favorite. He starts out as a cute little candle. He's like a ghost fire type. His name is Litwick.
Okay.
And then he turns into a lamp, and then he turns into a chandelier, and he's all spooky and he's one of the best. He's awesome.
Okay, so apparently the Kotaku article is actual Pokemon. Got it.
Yep. Currently there are 896, so don't feel bad that you don't recognize them from their shadows. All right, but that's about all I've had time to play this week. A little bit of Bug Fables, a little bit of Pokemon, mostly watching Pokemon. And then just, I'm always playing Magic the Gathering. Love that game. Hate that game. I was tilting hard before we started recording. I couldn't get any lands in my stupid opening hands. But yeah, hopefully we can play something together soon and something maybe, at all in this coming week.
But, we had D&D last weekend, at least. That went
that was great. We all loved that. That was a great session.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And maybe we'll talk about that some other time and add that to the video list.
I'll just start doing video recaps for the D&D sessions instead of I still owe you guys your recap on Roll20, don't I?
You do. Get us our recap and our loot.
I'll do that.
And
I'll do that tomorrow or Saturday.
Get on it.
It'll get done.
It'll get done. It better. You slacker.
But worst. This dang Dungeon Master is putting in all that effort so everyone else can play. How dare I?
God dang Dungeon Master. All right, in this new segment that we're calling Topic of the Week, I want to talk about difficulty in games. Some of my best memories come with overcoming the difficulty that can come with a video game and how good that can feel. But in recent years, partly and due to accessibility and allowing people of all kinds and walks to be able to access the amazingness that is, video games, because there's a lot more to offer than just difficulty. But also, people like us who are never free to play and don't have the time to smash their heads against a game that's just too difficult, unless it's Hades, because then we have all the time. But I just want to talk about, is it good? Is it bad? What do you like about difficulty? What don't you like? Do you like hard games? Do you like easy games? How do you feel about accessibility? Do you sometimes just drop it down to the lowest level so you can get through it, get that critical path going because you just don't have enough time? So, Sean, do you like hard games?
Yes, to an extent, right? I don't like a game that I just steamroll because, or usually I don't, because it's just not. It's part of the mental engagement of the game, because games are so much about the gameplay. Is I need to be in there thinking about all right, this is what I need to do, staying focused. And if the game gets too easy, I'll just roll right through it. But that's only partly true because I've been playing Astroneer, and obviously Astroneer is not a game that really has any kind of recognizable difficulty because there's not enemies. The one I've struggled with has been the kind of the resurgence starting with Dark Souls on the wanting a game to be so brutal that not everyone can beat it anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And I struggle with that because to me, games are still very much a storytelling medium, and if you make a game where now people can't get past certain parts of the game, then you've taken away the ability for them to experience and enjoy that story. And I think that's a shame, because stories are meant to be experienced by people.
That's true. You said. So with your Dark Souls comment, you mentioned how games are getting harder, that some people can't even beat them anymore. I would argue, not that it matters too much, but I would argue that there's a bunch of people out there who never finish games because they just suck at them, even before Dark Souls and increased difficulty became a thing.
That's fair.
Yeah, because if you look, and whether that's because it was hard or not, people just drop off games for no reason. You look at trophy lists and completions of a trophy, story trophies. Some people they'll start a game, and then they won't even get the very first trophy, which usually occurs within the first 20 minutes of a game. What did you do? Why? And then you see other people who drop off a third or halfway through or whatever. So there's a lot of reasons why you stop playing a game. Sometimes it is difficulty, but so I don't think there's any argument about accessibility. Accessibility is good. And I think the better thing to talk about is how it's good for not just people who need it. I love being able to highlight subtitles with a background color because my eyes work fine, but that doesn't mean that they were thinking straight when they put white text on white backgrounds for 90% of the game, and I still can't read because what's that about? So I love that I can put a little highlighted background. recently we being Jason and I, played through The Last of Us 2, which is probably the single most like flexible game with options, etc. when it comes to accessibility. Like everything could be fine-tuned down to difficulty and various parts of difficulty and eyesight and hearing. Like you could practically play this game blind, which is unreal and so cool to think about.
Yeah, that's
because
awesome.
Such a thing never existed before. So going back to From Software, developers of Dark Souls and Demon Souls and Sekiro and a couple other games, they make hard games. They do not include easy modes. They don't include a way to, at least to my knowledge, I could be mistaken, but they don't include a way to play this game if you're just completely able. You're a completely able person, you're just not good at it and you can't beat it. You're not willing to put the time in. There's no way to see the end of it if you can't beat it without looking up a video. How do you feel about so what people refer to a lot of time is the developer's vision. So you get a bunch of tryhards out there who think that people are going to ruin their experience by introducing something like an easier mode in a game like Dark Souls. How do you feel when it comes to that developer's artistic vision if they choose not to include an easy mode? Do you think that's fine? Do you think they should probably just kind of do it anyway? Or
I got a couple feelings on this, which is one, at the end of the day, it's their game. And so, I'm not going to argue with their right of whether or not they should make the game accessible to all types of folks, or if they want to cater their game just to one group of people, that's on them, and that's fine. I do think it's somewhat foolish. I'm sure you remember back in like high school when you're sitting there taking English and you used to get the like, what did the author mean by this phrase? And you're like, you have no idea what the author meant by the phrase. All that really matters is like my take on this. And right. Having written a few stories now and gone down that road, like that rings true to me now than ever did. Like I'm not really concerned with the developer's vision. I'm concerned with my experience of playing the game. And my experience playing the game, I may walk out of the game with a completely different take than what the developer wanted. And I don't think the developer has any right to tell me that I'm wrong either. It's my experience. And I would rather exist in a world where that was the focus of let people have their experience and let people to interpret the game the way they want to. I know obviously, yes, the developer is setting up a lot, but no one's going to walk out of the game feeling the same way. And so I think that makes for, that's part of the fun discussion he's going to have about the game. Sitting there and, how did you take this scene? Why do you think, so-and-so made a decision that they did? The developer may be able to come back to you and say, oh, it's because of this. But it's like, yeah, but that's not the take that I took. That's not my version of the character. And so I prefer, letting people have that type of experience.
Well said. Sean, let it be known, subscribes to the theory of death of the author, apparently.
Yeah, pretty much. Which, hey, when I finally publish my novel and you want to tell me that why Quartz did what he did is completely different than what I said, that's fine. You tell me that. I'll have a fun time talking about it. But I'll also be a starving author, so please buy me a meal.
I'm going to tell you all about how Quartz is doing things for his deep-seated daddy or mommy issues. Whatever isn't obviously present, I'm going to make something up just to screw with you. No, it's very well said, Sean. Yeah, so there's a, and I mentioned it just briefly, and you kind of pretty much answered this question too, or question, but like spoke to this point. Like I said, there's a contingent of people out there who take pride in being able to play a game well or on a hard difficulty, and I understand that. Obviously, it feels good to be good at something, especially when there aren't as many people who are as good at it. All of a sudden, someone comes in and says, "Oh yeah, here, 5-year-old," for the sake of the argument, now the 5-year-old, it's so easy now, even the 5-year-old can beat it. And all of a sudden your accomplishment, at least in your own eyes, feels soured. Like, it's still not the same. Obviously that person didn't do what you did. Like if it was some sort of true competition, they wouldn't get the gold medal. just because they finished the race. They didn't get the gold medal, or they didn't finish the race in the same conditions. So you still won, assuming it's a competition. It's not even a competition. It's not, unless it literally is. It doesn't matter how good you are, except it's just hard. It's hard to shake. I think humans, and you see this on the global scale and the world political scale, where real problems occur, and it's this but gaming's beautiful like that. There's always this microcosm of society in the gaming industry and within gamers, and you see a lot of nastiness, unfortunately. And people just can't.
Yeah, some people like they like that exclusivity. This is my game, and only people who are willing to put the time and get good should be playing this game. And it's like, to me, you're not doing yourself any favors. I mean, if you're minimizing the number of people that can come and play and enjoy your game's not going to be as successful as it could be, which means your game isn't going to get as big. Like I would like the franchises that I enjoy to continue to exist and grow and get better. And if you're diminishing the number of people in your player base because you want to put this excessive hurdle that people have to get through in order to be considered, to be allowed to play your game or be accepted within the community of your game, I don't see where you think that's creating a world where you're getting more of this game that you like. Now, apparently I'm wrong, because Dark Soul like is a pretty common term nowadays, but also we're even with those, we're seeing Jedi Fallen Order had the story mode. It had its regular difficulty. It had its like full on, you have a split second to have, you need basically almost Jedi reflexes to even have a chance of beating this game. And we also had the story mode where, hey, it's Star Wars. I want to go experience Star Wars and see this part of Star Wars, and I don't want to get killed by every stormtrooper I walk past because I'm not good at games. But I love Star Wars, and I want to see more Star Wars. I want that person to get to be able to play the game. And if they come out like, I played on story mode. Oh, cool. What was let's face it. I think I've come before that. Yeah, I've had some cool moments where I felt super awesome and Fallen Order, and I'm playing on whatever the normal difficulty is on that. But then it's not like if someone also has a cool moment, it makes my moment. It doesn't, to me, make my moment less cool. It's that's awesome. Like, you and I now get to like have a banter back and forth of the cool Jedi like things we got to do, and basically be Star Wars fanboys, and for sure, in the positive sense of that phrase. Because Lord knows, the Star Wars fan base has its issues, but
oh boy, does it!
I just, I see it as people wanting to feel superior, and you want to feel superior. Go, I get it. I mean, I had my years of wanting to be the best at Super Smash Bros. and wanting to dominate all of my friends at Super Smash Bros. And it's not like nowadays I would take all the losses in the world if it meant I just got to play more video games with my friends.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. I think at the end of the day, unfortunately, and I say this in the nicest way, grow up. And if you can't, you're a douche. You're an idiot. Like there is something to be said about the game should still be designed well. Like, Dark Souls should be designed like Dark Souls has always been designed. And then if you want to put a slider that just makes it like God mode, that's fine.
Well, and part of the fun of video games is hey, I'm not just hey, I'm leveling up. Because there's two ways that you get strong in a game, right? There's I leveled up and therefore my character became more powerful. But there's also the game exists with a certain set of rule sets. By and large, the gameplay of the game has rules, and you learn how to min-max and operate efficiently in those rules, and you become better. And I don't get me wrong, I still want that. I get great enjoyment of I've had rounds in Titanfall where it's like I literally jumped off this wall, ran, shot this guy, jumped over, ran on the other wall, shoved another guy, slid under the thing, decked a guy in the back of the head, and then called down my Titan and jumped to my Titan. And it was 5 seconds, and I was like, I am the greatest human being that has ever lived. Because so cool. I had practiced, and then I think I immediately got annihilated in my Titan, and it was like, okay, I'm got brought low here, but I still had I think more about the this awesome moment than the I just got my butt handed to me moment, and it was Yeah, but that was because I put the time. It was nice to, like, I played the game enough that I understood the mechanics, and it came together there in that moment. That's like, to me, the best moment of gaming is where, like, everything comes together and you're like, oh, I can see the code. I'm Neo right now.
Exactly. See, I feel that sentiment very much. Like you and I, again, not including games like Astroneer and Minecraft that don't have a skill-based difficulty. That's more of a cerebral planning, artistic kind of thing. Those don't count. But like, what I don't understand is people who play video games that have difficulty and then refuse to engage with it at all.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I have to have, like, even if you're not good, find your level of difficulty and push yourself to that level, and then maybe try to push yourself past it. Like, I can't just personally understand anyone who wants, like Hades has, it's called God mode. It's basically their easy mode, but it's not quite like what it sounds.
Okay.
It's still the regular game, except every time you die, you get like an extra percentage of like damage reduction. So the very first time is the same as anybody else's run, but then you have 1% damage
it's
reduction.
a little helping hand as you go on.
Exactly. And to be frank, like, you'll probably still complete the game in a roughly the same time as if you hadn't turned that feature on, which I think is very interesting, because most people will escape their first time in Hades anywhere between 20 and 40 runs, sometimes like 50 or 60. But like, like that, it all just kind of equals out. So, but like at the same time, that's still, you're going to find an equilibrium. At some point, you're going to find where the game's going to help you as much as it needed to, and no more and no less. Like, I can't understand ever wanting to play a game and just constantly just be on like true invincible God mode all the time. And some people, like, I don't think that's a common thing, but sometimes the way people talk about this topic when it comes up on like other, podcasts and articles and stuff, I'm like, it's like, I want the immersion and the fantasy that comes with being super strong. Like, do you? Do you just want to be level 100 right away with all this stuff? I mean, as kids, we put those codes in sometimes to have like 20 minutes of fun, but that kills my enjoyment. Like
that's
that.
Though.
It's gone.
You're only going to play the game for a little bit, and then but the issue, going back to, like the Dark Souls, is it's only got that one difficulty. I think you need to have that range of difficulty so people can find their, like, this is where, the last time I had a big run on Skyrim, and I had downloaded some combat mods, and they made the game tough, and I had to start the game playing on the novice difficulty, and then by the end I had worked my way back up to like expert or master, because between leveling up and also understanding what those combat mods did to change my game, I was able to, I got better at the game, and I got stronger, which let me keep pushing it, because I wanted the game to stay a challenge. And I mean, not everyone has to do that, but I'm definitely with you that, like, I don't want to just steamroll a game. That's just not, it's not going to be enjoyable.
Agreed. I beat Celeste and did almost all of the content, like almost everything you can do in Celeste. I haven't gone back to do like the extra DLC chapter that they put in, but I played that game. So Celeste is a lot like, kind of what we just talked about. Like, the base game is the hardest mode.
Yeah.
I don't think you can make it any harder. You can do the extra stuff, which is even harder, but like the settings can only make it easier. You can't like increase difficulty. And that game is hard in its like original format. And in the very beginning, the game's like, hey, we think this game is amazing if you can and do play it the way we designed it. And then that same message is like, but we totally understand if you can't. Yeah. Because that's not what life's about. But like the game, both the message and the gameplay, like, have you played Celeste?
I've not. It is on my, it's actually like the actual written backlog of games I have. It's actually on that list.
Dude, I highly recommend it. Next time you have like a little vacation time, like, and you're just kind of like cozy at home or something, download it. I've got it on mine. I think Jason's got it on his too. And just boot it up and play it. Like, play as much as you want or don't. Like, it's definitely one of those pick up and plays because of the way that levels are structured and stuff. easily one of the best platforms I've ever played. And like I said, it's brutal, but the curve is beautiful. Like the curve is great. The way it like introduces you to everything.
That to me is the best. Like a perfect difficulty curve that ramps up at the same rate that you're getting good. It's just that's like almost gameplay perfection to me.
Yeah, but I broke a Joy-Con trying to play that game. like I had to send it in, like not like snapped it in half or anything, but like and not out of anger, but just like the wear and tear. The drift came in. Yeah, like I noticed after, because I played it originally, beat it, and then I went back to it like maybe 2 years later and said, all right, I want to get all the strawberries and do all the crystal hearts and all this stuff. And like as I was nearing the end of it, that's when I noticed like, oh, the drift is happening, and it's happening hard. Like I killed that controller, that left Joy-Con trying to like. Yeah, it was not pretty. But speaking, like kind of tying what we talked about earlier in the episode about trophies, with Celeste, because you can make that game, you can basically put like where you can't die, and you can just like basically fly around the level. So there is truly no difficulty whatsoever. You can get every trophy in Celeste without having to do it on like the hardest difficulty. So you can just rank them straight to the bottom and just get everything in probably like a couple hours, after you've beaten the main game, of course, and get all the extra collectibles and stuff. And that's just like, they're again, that philosophy that they have of like, it doesn't matter. Just get the platinum, whatever. Now you've got the platinum, you can just move on to your next platinum.
Yeah, just go do your thing.
Exactly. What was the last game you had to lower the difficulty on to keep playing?
Halo 5. I've beaten every Halo up until Halo 5 on Legendary.
Couldn't do it on that one?
Yeah, could I probably have done it? Yes.
Right.
The problem was, so the original Halo was Halo Combat Evolved was the first game I ever beat with Kyle. And it's the whole reason I own an Xbox is because when I moved away and joined the Navy, and then I'd gotten out of training and settled in Washington D.C., I went out and I bought a 360 because he had just picked up Halo Reach, and they were selling 360s with Reach at the time. And so him and I we played Halo Reach, and then prior to this, while I was still at home and visiting home from college, we beat Halo 2 and 3, and so that was we beat 4. We beat ODST, and then 5 came out. I mean, there's a lot of things I dislike about 5, and so we loaded up 5. But it was hitting that point where I think he was in college. I was. We played a lot when I was in Pittsburgh, going through my nuke training, because somehow I had actually free time, despite the fact that I was learning nuclear physics. But 5 was just where we didn't have the time anymore. So it was like, yeah, we could sit here and learn the in and outs of every combat and how to approach it to beat it, or we can just knock this down to heroic, and our base understanding of Halo and the skill that comes from beating all these things before will carry us through. And we did that, and it was fun, but. Yeah, because we used to have the point of pride if we beat them all on Legendary, and it was like this just isn't worth the it was the beginning of Never Free to Play. It just wasn't worth the time sink anymore to sit here and be like I want to beat this game, but I don't want to take 2-3 times as long to beat this game. I just don't have the patience for it anymore.
For sure.
That's not true. I had the patience. I just didn't have the time for it anymore. I wanted to be able to play other things.
Money.
And then I started playing Doom on a higher difficulty, and then I was just like, and this was when I was moving, because all I had was I was coming down here, all I had was Doom, and I was like, no, and I bumped that down a difficulty to just I think to the normal one, and I was like I'm here to punch things and chainsaw things and shotgun things, and I'm going to make this a little bit more enjoyable. Vice, more of the slog is where I want slog that it was going to be if I stayed up. So
yeah, I had a similar experience. I hit a wall in Doom, and I had no interest in that story almost whatsoever. And so once I hit that wall, I'm like, I guess I'm done with Doom. Not because I didn't want to play it, see the end, but in a game like Doom, the gameplay is literally just 99% of that game. So going back to what I said a little bit ago, it's like, well, I don't want to lower the difficulty, but I certainly don't want to put in the time to get better to be able to play it on this current one. So this is it. This is my experience with Doom. It's over. I've rolled credits. personally, at least in my brain, that was fun. Maybe I'll play Eternal someday, but I'm never going back to regular Doom.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's fine. I did lower the difficulty, though, the most previous time to beat a game specifically was Jedi Fallen Order, because I don't like that game. I don't think that the difficulty...
Did you lower it because it was too hard? Or you lower it just to beat it faster?
Both. I thought that... I didn't think the difficulty was well designed. I don't think that game was well designed. I don't like that game. I don't think the combat is fun at all. Like I know I'm like the odd man out on that. I feel they somehow ruined.
You're right. You're actually not. I read several reviews that they I think the most apt way it was described was it's slow. It's almost. Did you ever actually play any of the Splinter Cell games?
No, I haven't actually.
You have to be in like a scheming, patient, cerebral state of mind to play Splinter Cell. This is the game where you're gonna sit there and you're gonna be like in the shadows, not moving for minutes, just like, all right, I took that guard about 20 seconds, and you're memorizing everything, and then you execute. Mm-hmm. But like, this isn't like you don't run in Splinter Cell. If you're running Splinter Cell, you've screwed up. It is you're holding like the joystick the barest minuscule forward, and like Sam Fisher is doing this like creep like slow step thing. You're like, this is how I transition this entire game, because like it's all stealth. And like Jedi Fallen Order isn't that bad, but it is definitely I wouldn't a lot of combat in the game I would not describe as action packed. There are moments where like I can string together a couple action packed, but it's much more like, let me think this through. Let me be on top of things, and it's very different than I think what we see in a lot of games these days.
I agree, and to add to it, like once I bumped it down to easy, I still hated the combat. I still thought it was bad. I didn't think it was and specifically. And this is 90% of it, the combat with like troopers and droids and stuff. Like the lightsaber duels, while a little repetitive, were definitely the best parts of that game, but you only get like 3 of those. And
I didn't care for because the lightsaber battles to me were, because the rest of the game wasn't the like the lightsaber battles are the epitome of the like, all right, I am fighting Queen Goma. She's going to lunge, and then she's going to do this attack, and then she'll be open to attack, and I will hit her, and then we will repeat this until I succeed at it about 3 times, and then she will change up her attack pattern slightly by adding another 1 or 2 things to the pattern. Like I enjoyed the fact that the other fights were a little bit to me less scripted, and it was more like, okay, like there's enemies here. There are several different ways I can approach this to like pick some of them off, or I just like go in and hope that I can get through all of them before I run out of force power. And then I'm wrong, and when I need to be able to force push that rocket that rocket trooper is shooting at me to blow him up, I don't have the energy left, and I'm exploded.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and that's what I mean when I say they got repetitive. Is pretty much what you just described with your Zelda reference. Is that exactly like that? You know, like
that's I actually like the boss battles in Fallen Order the least of the combat. Mm-hmm. I like
some of the boss battles were just unfair. Like AT-AT comes at you, or not AT-ST comes at you, and like so did all those other like K1 droids or K9 droids, whatever they were called from Rogue One. Gosh, I hated those. So much. They just pick you up and slam you, and I mean, they were cool, but at the same time, it's like nothing ever felt like it played by the same rules. Like hey, I know how to fight troopers now. It's like, well, now they don't fight that way anymore. Yeah. Like, I
think so. Yeah, I got to Dathomir, and then I went and played something else. I don't remember what. I think I went and finally beat Nier Automata. The 3 times it takes to actually roll credits on Nier Automata for real.
I gotta play that still.
You have to beat that game twice before you get a title card. You beat that game twice before you get a title card.
That's so funny.
Like you play the first one.
Jason insane.
Like this is a quick aside. You play the first game, like the first time, that was pretty good. And then the second time through is the first time through story, but told from the other character's perspective. And like, oh, that's cool. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, there's a third version. I wonder who else we're gonna play through this story. No, it's actually what occurs after the first playthrough. So it's a completely different story, a different part of the game that you had to play through twice to get there. And it's on that one where the title card pulls up. And I was like, what
That's
is
so funny.
this? It's awesome though. It's and I'll wrap this up real fast, but it's so worth it because those two playthroughs make you so invested in those characters by the third time that everything just hits you in the heart. It's so brutal.
Oh man, you've talked about it before, but now you're really making me want to play it.
Go play Nier. I want to talk to you about Nier.
I will.
And now I don't remember the point I was going to make before I went to talk about Nier.
Jedi Fallen Order sucks. Difficulty is great, but only if you want it. Let's peace. We're out. All right. Well, that about does it. Sean, thank you once again for joining us. Hopefully, Jason can be back with us next week, or maybe I'll have a special guest with Rachel, and she can talk Pokemon or something like that. But yeah. Any last words, Sean?
If you talk Pokemon, I'm going to crash it. Talk Digimon just for the fun of it.
Digimon is trash, and everybody knows it.
I don't think I've watched Digimon since I was probably in elementary school or middle school. I don't know when Digimon came out now.
Yeah, I don't remember either because I didn't watch it. I hated it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like it, and for the dumbest reason, I was like, wait, they digivolve? What is that? What, they go back to being small? No. No, I want them to stay big. And that was literally my biggest gripe with
forever.
it. Like, I wasn't about to watch the Agumon, like the little dinosaur dude who's like the mascot for the entire series, turn into this huge, awesome dinosaur with like metal arms and stuff, and then shrink back down.
War Greymon.
No. I want War Greymon forever. Who cares? It's a stupid game. All right. We are never free to play. We hope you have a fantastic week. We will try. We are never free to play.
That was a quality run right there.
Oh, I ruined it. I ruined it, and I'm going to keep it.
I don't know why you laughed.
ruined it.